The nature of light. Light can be reflected, absorbed, or transmitted, meaning that it can be taken in, bounced back, or can be traveled through. A pigment is something that absorbs and/or reflects light. Leaves are green because the primary pigment in plants is chlorophyll. Chlorophyll absorbs red and blue light and reflects green light. This is the electromagnetic spectrum. This helps us understand that longer wavelengths of light mean that there is less energy. On the spectrum, it shows that colors that are cooler, like violet and blue, have more energy, but they have shorter wavelengths than colors like red and orange, which have higher wavelengths. On one end, we have radio waves, which have the least amount of energy, but their wavelengths are the longest. On the other side, there are gamma rays. Gamma rays have the most energy, and they have the shortest wavelengths.
This is the chloroplast. The chloroplast is the part of a plant cell where photosynthesis takes place. The chloroplast contains an outer membrane, an inner membrane, oval-shaped structures called thylakoids, and a fluid-filled space called the stroma. The inner and outer membrane of the chloroplast acts as a barrier that controls the movement of substances in and out of the cell while also allowing photosynthetic reactions to occur. Thylakoids are these oval-like structures where light-dependent reactions occur. In the stroma is where light-independent reactions occur, such as the Calvin cycle. Thylakoids are stacked on top of each other to form structures called granums.
Formula of photosynthesis. 6 CO2 plus 6 H2O plus light equals C6H12O6 plus 6O2. This is the formula of photosynthesis. It consists of three products: carbon dioxide, water, and light energy, which all create glucose and oxygen. There are two separate reactions in this process that are key in photosynthesis. They're called the light-independent and light-dependent reactions. The light-dependent reaction occurs in the thylakoid membrane in the chloroplast, and it takes water, light energy, to produce oxygen, ATP, and NADPH. The light-dependent reaction occurs in another area of the chloroplast, the stroma. It takes CO2, ATP, and NADPH to produce glucose. Both of these reactions are very important during photosynthesis and are key in creating what the cell needs.
The light-dependent reaction. The light-dependent reaction takes place in the thylakoid membranes of the chloroplast. The primary reactants in the light-dependent reaction are light, water, and ADP. The main products of the light-dependent reaction are oxygen, ATP, and NADPH. The process begins with the absorption of light by chlorophyll and other pigments in photosystems 1 and 2. This energizes the electrons that are separated from water molecules along an electron transport chain in the thylakoid membrane. As the electrons move along the chain, they release energy into the thylakoid space. The energy from the electrons is used to drive the production of ATP through ATP synthase. The hydrogen ions that are also from the separated molecule water are accumulated in the thylakoid space. They are pumped through the synthase, turning it like a rotor, attaching a phosphate group to ADP, creating ATP. As the electrons reach photosystem 1, they are re-energized by another input of light energy. These high-energy electrons are then passed to NADP+ along with a proton to form NADPH. During the light-dependent reactions, the pH in the thylakoid space decreases as protons accumulate there. This creates a pH gradient across the thylakoid membrane with a higher concentration of protons in the thylakoid space than in the stroma.
This light-independent reaction is a second stage of photosynthesis called the Calvin cycle. Light-independent reactions occur in the stroma of the chloroplast. During light-independent reactions, carbon dioxide is ultimately made into sugar or glucose for the cell. When the one carbon molecule, carbon dioxide, enters the stroma, an enzyme known as ribisco catalyzes the reaction where that one carbon molecule is fixed to RUBP, a 5-carbon sugar. These molecules are then rearranged into a number of 3 carbon molecules using the energy from ATP and NADPH. At this point in the Calvin cycle, there are 12 3-carbon molecules. 2 of these are used to make glucose, or sugar, for the cell. The other carbon molecules are then recycled back into the Calvin cycle, being rearranged into 6 5-carbon molecules using the energy from ATP and NADPH so that the Calvin cycle can continue. When ATP and NADPH react in the cycle, ATP loses a phosphate group, becoming ADP, and NADPH loses a hydrogen ion, becoming ADP+. These ATP and NADP+ then go to the light-dependent reactions where they can gain back their phosphate group and hydrogen ion so that the cycle can repeat continuously.
These are CAM and C4 plants. CAM and C4 plants are specialized plants that have adapted to their hot and dry environment so that plants don't lose water. CAM plants bring in CO2 at night through the stomata and trap carbon dioxide in the leaves. The stomata are the small openings on a plant leaf that allow oxygen and carbon dioxide in and out. The stomata closes during the daytime to limit water loss and store carbon dioxide in the form of malic acid to be later used by the Calvin cycle. C4 plants change the location of photosynthesis. C4 plants have a specialized chemical pathway that allows them to capture low levels of carbon. They temporarily store carbon dioxide in the form of a 4-carbon molecule called oxaloacetate before going to the Calvin cycle. This process is an adaptation that minimizes energy and nutrients loss but requires extra ATP. The main difference between these two is how they take in CO2. C4 plants take in carbon dioxide during the day with their special pathway, and CAM at night so they don't lose water during the day.